Have you ever felt the weight of the world pressing heavily upon you? The endless comparisons, the chase for approval, the unrelenting pursuit of external validation, it all feels like a relentless storm, draining your spirit and leaving you weary. In these moments, ancient wisdom offers a gentle light, guiding us to look inward for strength, serenity, and meaning. Buddha's timeless teachings serve as compasses for navigating the complexities of modern life. These teachings remind us of the power of self-awakening, mindfulness, and the clarity that comes with understanding ourselves and the world around us. Today, let us embark on a transformative journey to explore another 10 profound stories that transcend time. These are not merely stories to read, they are pathways to growth, serenity, and fulfillment. Let these stories not only penetrate your mind, but also plant the seeds of enlightenment in your heart. They are bridges connecting you to serenity amidst chaos. If you find this video helpful, we hope for your support to achieve our first milestone, 1,000 subscribers. Every subscription from you is a great motivation for us to continue creating meaningful content and spreading these values. Hit the subscribe button today and join a community where ancient wisdom seamlessly blends with modern life in extraordinary ways. Now, let's begin. 1. The Wise Sage and the Empty Box. In a bustling city, there lived a merchant who had achieved great success. Yet despite his riches, the merchant felt a constant ache in his heart, a void he could not explain. One day he sought out a renowned sage known for his wisdom. The merchant bowed deeply and said, "Master, I have more wealth than I could ever spend, yet I feel empty and dissatisfied. My heart longs for something I cannot name. Can you help me find true happiness?" The sage studied the merchant for a moment, then handed him an intricately carved wooden box. "Take this box to the marketplace and fill it with treasures," he instructed. "But be mindful, the box will only hold what truly belongs inside." The merchant eagerly agreed, believing the task to be simple. He rushed to the market and began filling the box with gold coins, dazzling jewels, and rare artifacts. But no matter how carefully he arranged the treasures, they all spilled out as soon as he closed the lid. Frustrated, the merchant returned to the sage. "Master," he said, "the box rejects everything I place inside. Is it broken?" The sage shook his head and smiled. "The box is not broken. It is merely teaching you a truth. Try again, but this time, place something inside that cannot be bought or sold." Puzzled, the merchant returned to the marketplace, unsure of what to do. He wandered aimlessly, observing the people around him. He saw a child laughing as she played with a simple wooden toy. He noticed a farmer sharing his lunch with a stray dog. He watched a young couple smiling as they helped an elder cross the road. Each of these moments touched his heart in a way his treasures never had. Returning to the sage, the merchant held the box and said, "Master, I still do not know what to place inside, but today I felt a sense of joy and peace watching the kindness and contentment of others. It was as though my heart filled with something immeasurable." The sage's eyes sparkled with understanding. "Now, open the box and look inside." The merchant opened the lid, expecting it to be empty. To his astonishment, the box contained a soft, radiant glow that warmed his hands and heart. He stared at the sage in wonder. "What you see is the essence of happiness," the sage explained. "It cannot be bought, earned, or taken. It comes from the joy within yourself, sparked by gratitude, kindness, and mindfulness. You felt it today because you stopped chasing external riches and opened your heart to life's simple beauty." The merchant's eyes filled with tears as he bowed deeply. "Master, I understand now. True happiness does not come from possessions, but from the contentment and love we cultivate within." The sage nodded. "Indeed. Remember, the treasures of the world are fleeting, but the treasure of a peaceful heart is eternal. Carry that treasure with you, and you will never feel empty again." 2. The sun rises anew each day. In a secluded Zen monastery nestled deep within the mountains, a young student sat in the meditation hall, his face shadowed with shame. The early morning light streamed through the open windows, illuminating the serene faces of his fellow students, but his heart was heavy. When the master entered, the student rose and bowed deeply. "Master," he said, his voice trembling, "I've failed again. Despite my efforts, my mind wanders in meditation, my temper flares at small things, and I am clumsy in my daily tasks. I feel unworthy to remain here." The master, an elderly man with eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of lifetimes, gazed at the student with gentle understanding. "Come with me," he said simply. The student followed as the master led him to a nearby hillside. The two stood in silence, watching the sky as the sun began its ascent. Soft hues of pink and gold painted the heavens, and the light chased away the remnants of the night. "Tell me," the master said, breaking the stillness. "When the sun rises, does it carry the weight of yesterday's storms?" The student looked puzzled. "No, master. The sun rises anew each day, unaffected by what came before." The master smiled. "Exactly. Each morning is a clean slate, a new beginning. Why do you cling to the clouds of yesterday, burdening yourself with what is already gone?" The student hesitated, then said, "But master, my failures, they feel like chains. I cannot seem to escape them." The master bent down and picked up a handful of dirt. "Here," he said, offering it to the student. "Carry this." Confused but obedient, the student took the dirt into his hands. It was light at first, but as he held it longer, the grains seemed to grow heavier, slipping through his fingers and leaving a gritty residue behind. After a while, the master spoke again. "Does the dirt grow heavier as you hold it?" "Yes, master," the student replied. "And what will happen if you refuse to let it go? My arms will tire, and eventually I will drop it." The master nodded. "So it is with your mistakes and failures. The longer you hold on to them, the heavier they become. But you always have the choice to let go. Each day offers you the chance to set them down and begin again, free from their weight." The student's eyes filled with tears. "But what if I fail again tomorrow?" The master turned to the rising sun. "The sun does not know if storms will return, nor does it fear them. It simply rises, bringing light to the world, no matter what the day may bring. So too can you rise each day with hope and intention. Failure is not the end, it is merely a lesson, a stepping stone to growth." 3. Quiet your mind. In a small monastery surrounded by serene forests, a young student approached the Zen master with a restless heart. He had been seeking enlightenment for years, yet felt no closer to understanding the mysteries of the universe. Frustration had taken root in his soul. "Master," the student said, bowing low, "why can't I hear the wisdom of the universe? Why does it seem that the answers elude me, no matter how hard I try?" The master regarded him with a calm expression and said, "Follow me." The master led the student through the forest to a secluded lake. The surface of the water shimmered under the midday sun, but the wind stirred small ripples across it, distorting its reflection of the clear sky above. The student stared at the water, unsure of what he was meant to see. "Look at the lake," the master said. "What do you see?" "I see the reflection of the sky, but it's unclear," the student replied. "The ripples make it hard to see anything clearly." The master nodded. "Now, watch." He stood silently, allowing the breeze to die down. Gradually the lake's surface grew calm. The ripples vanished, leaving the water as smooth as glass. The sky's reflection appeared pristine, every cloud and color vividly mirrored. "Do you see the difference?" the master asked. "Yes," the student said, marveling at the stillness. "Now the lake reflects the sky perfectly." The master turned to him with a gentle smile. "Your mind is like this lake. When it is agitated by endless thoughts, worries, and desires, it cannot reflect the truths of the universe clearly. But when it becomes still, quiet and undisturbed, clarity arises. Only in such stillness can the wisdom of the universe reveal itself." The student furrowed his brow. "But master, how can I still my mind? It feels as though my thoughts are always churning like the ripples on the lake." The master bent down, scooping a handful of water from the lake. He held it up, letting it drip slowly through his fingers. "What happens when I try to grip the water tightly?" "It spills," the student observed. "And what if I let it be?" The master released his hand, allowing the water to rest in his palm. "It stays still," the student murmured, understanding dawning on his face. "To quiet your mind," the master said, "you must stop trying to control every thought. Let them flow naturally, without clinging to them or pushing them away. Sit in stillness, observe, and let your mind settle of its own accord. In time, you will hear the whispers of the universe, subtle, profound, and clear. The story of the Zen master and the lake reminds us of the power of stillness. In a world filled with constant noise and distraction, our minds often resemble a churning lake, unable to reflect the beauty and truth of life. Yet, when we practice mindfulness and allow our thoughts to settle, clarity emerges. The universe speaks in whispers, and it is only in silence that we can hear it. By quieting our minds, we open ourselves to wisdom, understanding, and the profound truths that lie just beyond the noise. 4. Light others' paths. In the heart of a dense forest, where the canopy of ancient trees blocked the moonlight, a weary traveler stumbled through the shadows, his path uncertain. The forest seemed endless, and with each step his fear of losing his way deepened. The silence was thick, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Just as despair began to take hold, the traveler saw a faint glow ahead. Quickening his pace, he discovered an old monk standing by the side of the path, holding a simple lantern. The monk's light, though modest, illuminated the surrounding area, revealing a way through the darkness. "Wise one," the traveler said, bowing respectfully, "I have been wandering aimlessly, unable to find my way. May I borrow your lantern to light my path?" The monk smiled kindly and extended the lantern to the traveler. As the traveler reached for it, the monk paused and said, "Take this light, but remember, as you use it to brighten your path, it also lights mine. When we help others, we illuminate the way not only for them, but for ourselves as well." The traveler accepted the lantern with gratitude and began walking, the monk accompanying him. The small glow of the lantern cast away the oppressive darkness, revealing a safe trail forward. As they walked, the traveler noticed that the monk, though guiding with a steady pace, seemed frail. His hands, weathered with age, trembled slightly as they carried the lantern together. "Master," the traveler asked, "why do you choose to walk with me when you could remain in a safe place, at peace with your own light?" The monk's gaze was serene. "Light grows brighter when it is shared. If I were to hoard this lantern for myself, its glow would serve only me. But by sharing it with you, it becomes a beacon for both of us, and perhaps for others who may cross our path. Kindness, like light, multiplies when given freely." The traveler fell silent, reflecting on the monk's words. With each step, he felt his own spirit lift, not only from the comfort of finding his way, but also from the presence of someone who cared enough to walk beside him. As they journeyed together, they encountered another traveler, lost and shivering in the cold. The old monk stopped and said, "Here, let us light his way as well." Using the lantern, he lit a small torch for the stranger, who thanked them profusely and joined their walk. Together, the three moved forward, the darkness seeming less formidable with each added flame. Eventually, the path split, and the monk turned to leave. The original traveler hesitated. "Master, how will you continue your journey without the lantern?" The monk's eyes twinkled. "My friend, your gratitude and the light we have spread are more than enough to guide me. Go now, and remember, as you brighten others' paths, you light your own as well." 5. Shine without comparison. In a tranquil monastery high on a hill, a young disciple sat under the shade of a tree, his heart weighed down by feelings of inadequacy. Around him, the other disciples seemed to radiate confidence, excelling in their studies, their meditation, and their acts of service. The young disciple felt his own efforts were pale in comparison, and this thought tormented him. One evening, after the day's teachings had concluded, he approached the master with downcast eyes. "Master," he said, bowing low, "why can't I be as radiant as others? No matter how hard I try, my efforts seem dull. Why does the sun shine so much brighter than the moon?" The master looked at the disciple for a long moment, his gaze filled with understanding. Then, gesturing for the disciple to follow, he walked to the monastery's courtyard. The sky above was painted with the soft hues of twilight as the sun began to set, its final rays casting a golden glow over the earth. "Look at the sun," the master said, pointing to the fiery orb descending toward the horizon. "Its light is bold and unrelenting, illuminating everything it touches. It gives life and energy to the world." The disciple nodded, admiring the brilliance of the sun. Then the master gestured to the opposite side of the sky, where the moon was beginning to rise, faint and silver against the encroaching darkness. And now, look at the moon. Its glow is gentle, offering comfort and peace. While the sun dominates the day, the moon quietly watches over the night. Each shines in its own time, fulfilling its unique purpose. The master turned to the disciple, his expression serene. Do you think the sun envies the moon for soothing the world when darkness falls? Or that the moon feels inadequate because it cannot light the day? They never compare themselves to each other. Each embraces its role, shining as it was meant to. The disciple furrowed his brow. But master, the sun's light is so much brighter. Surely it must be more important. The master smiled, shaking his head. Brighter does not mean better. The sun's light would be harsh and overwhelming in the stillness of the night, just as the moon's softness would not suffice to nourish the world during the day. Their value does not lie in their brightness, but in the harmony they create by fulfilling their unique roles. The disciple fell silent, reflecting on the master's words. Are you saying, he asked hesitantly, that I should not compare myself to others because I have my own light to shine? Exactly, the master said. Comparison dims the light within. When you look at others, you lose sight of your own path. Like the sun and moon, your journey is unique. Your light may not seem as radiant now, but it will shine brightly in its own time, when the moment is right. Instead of longing to be like others, nurture what is uniquely yours. The story of the sun, the moon, and the young disciple reminds us that each of us has a unique purpose. Just as the celestial bodies play their individual roles in the grand harmony of the universe, so too do we each have our own journey, gifts, and light to offer. Shine, not as someone else, but as yourself. 6. A loaf of bread and the field. In a small village nestled between rolling hills, a monk was passing through on his way to a distant monastery. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold, he stopped near a field where a farmer was finishing his day's work. The farmer was muttering under his breath, his face clouded with frustration. Curious, the monk approached and greeted him warmly. Good evening, my friend. You seem troubled. What burdens your heart? The farmer sighed deeply and gestured toward his crops. Look at this harvest, he said bitterly. It's meager compared to what I had hoped for. I worked so hard, yet this is all I have to show for it. Next year, I may not even have enough to sow these fields again. The monk stood silently for a moment, his gaze sweeping across the golden fields where the farmer's crops swayed gently in the breeze. Finally, he said, May I share a story with you? The farmer, though tired and frustrated, nodded. There was once a man who had a single loaf of bread. As he sat down to eat, he began complaining, Why do I have just this one loaf? Others have feasts laid out before them with wine and meat and fruit. My life is so unfair. But nearby, another man sat in the shade of a tree, watching him. This man was so hungry, he hadn't eaten in 3 days. He looked at the loaf of bread and thought, what a gift it would be to have even a single bite of that bread. The monk paused and then continued. The first man, consumed by envy and discontent, couldn't see the blessing he already had. But the second man, though starving, recognized the value of even the smallest sustenance. Gratitude is not about the size of what you have. It's about the size of your heart to appreciate it. The farmer, taken aback, listened intently as the monk continued. You grumble about your small harvest, but consider this. There are others who have no fields to sow, no seeds to plant, and no crops to reap. For them, even your small harvest would be a treasure. Gratitude transforms how we see the world. It turns what we have into enough and reminds us of the abundance we often overlook. The farmer lowered his gaze, feeling a pang of shame. Master, he said softly, I never thought of it that way. I've been so focused on what I lack that I've forgotten to be thankful for what I have. The monk smiled gently. Gratitude is a practice, not just a feeling. Each evening, before you sleep, reflect on 3 things you are grateful for, no matter how small. It could be the warmth of the sun, the nourishment of your meal, or the simple fact that you have another day to live and work. Over time, you will find that your heart feels lighter and life seems more abundant. Gratitude is not about ignoring life's challenges, but about finding light within them. It teaches us that abundance is not measured by wealth or possessions, but by the ability to see and cherish the blessings already present. When we practice gratitude, we cultivate a sense of peace and connection that enriches our lives and the lives of those around us. 7. Buddha and the gift of anger. One day, as Buddha taught his disciples under the shade of a great Bodhi tree, a man approached with fury burning in his eyes. The man had heard of Buddha's growing influence and felt threatened by his teachings. Without hesitation, the man began shouting insults. "You are a fraud," he yelled. "You think you are wise, but you deceive others with your false peace." Buddha sat quietly, his expression unchanging. He neither interrupted the man nor reacted to his anger. This calmness only enraged the man further. "Why do you not respond?" the man demanded, his voice echoing through the gathering. "Are you too arrogant to answer me?" Buddha finally spoke, his voice calm and steady. "Tell me, if someone offers you a gift and you choose not to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man, caught off guard by the question, stammered, "It remains with the giver." Buddha nodded. "Exactly. In the same way, I choose not to accept your anger. It remains yours, and you must carry its burden." The man stood speechless as Buddha continued. "Anger is like a hot coal. When you hold on to it, intending to harm another, it is you who feels the burn. Release it, and you will be free from its pain." The man, humbled by Buddha's wisdom, bowed his head and left in silence. His anger, which moments ago had consumed him, now seemed small and unnecessary. The story of Buddha and the angry man teaches us that holding on to anger hurts us more than it harms others. It burns us from within, clouding our judgment and stealing our peace. When we refuse to engage with anger, either our own or others, we free ourselves from its grip. Choosing forgiveness or letting go doesn't condone the wrong done to us, but releases us from the suffering it causes. 8. The jar of water. In a peaceful monastery perched on a hillside, a young disciple struggled with his daily practice. Though he had been taught the art of meditation, he found little joy or purpose in it. Each session felt like an endless battle with his restless thoughts, and he began to question its value. One evening, as the sun cast long shadows across the courtyard, the disciple approached his master with frustration etched on his face. "Master," he said, bowing respectfully, "I feel that meditation is a chore. I sit in silence, but nothing changes. It doesn't add anything to my life." The master smiled gently and gestured for the disciple to sit beside him. He picked up a clay jar filled with water and handed it to the disciple. The water was murky, clouded by silt that had settled at the bottom. "Take this jar," the master said, "and shake it vigorously." The disciple did as instructed, swirling the jar until the water became entirely opaque. "What do you see now?" the master asked. "Nothing but mud," the disciple replied. "Good. Now set the jar down and wait," the master instructed. They sat in silence as the disturbed silt began to settle. Gradually, the water grew clearer until the disciple could see through it. The master pointed to the jar and said, "Meditation is like this. It does not add anything to your life, just as shaking the jar would not add water. Instead, it allows the murkiness of your mind, your fears, anxieties, and anger to settle. When the mind is still, clarity arises." The disciple stared at the jar, understanding dawning on him. So meditation is not about achieving something new, but about clearing what blocks us from seeing clearly? "Exactly," the master said, his tone serene. "When you meditate, you unburden yourself of the noise and distractions that cloud your perception. You create space for peace, understanding, and the natural beauty of life to reveal itself. It is not a chore, but a gift, a tool to rediscover the simplicity and clarity already within you. Room 9, the shared meal. One day, Buddha and his disciples were traveling through a village that had been struck by a severe drought. The fields were dry and cracked, and the villagers were barely surviving on the little food they had managed to store. Despite their struggles, many gathered to hear Buddha speak, hoping his wisdom would bring them solace in their time of hardship. After the teaching, a young boy approached Buddha with wide, curious eyes. In his hands he held a small bowl of rice, his family's only meal for the day. "Master," The boy said, "I want to give this to you. My parents say that you bring blessings, and maybe if I share this, our village will find relief." Buddha looked at the boy with deep compassion. "Your heart is kind and generous," he said gently, "but this is all your family has. Are you certain you want to give it away?" The boy nodded firmly. "I believe it will help." Buddha accepted the bowl with gratitude and placed it before the gathered crowd. Then he turned to his disciples and said, "Let us cook this rice, but not for ourselves. Let us share it with the village." The disciples hesitated, looking at the small bowl. "Master," one of them said, "this rice is barely enough for one person. How can it feed the entire village?" Buddha smiled and said, "Happiness and generosity are not limited by size. Let us begin, and you will see." The disciples prepared the rice and began serving it to the villagers, one small portion at a time. As each person received their share, something remarkable happened. Inspired by the boy's gesture, villagers who had been hiding away small reserves of food brought them forward: dried beans, fruits, and even a few precious spices. The simple meal grew into a feast as more and more people contributed what little they could spare. By the end of the evening, the entire village was nourished, not just in body, but in spirit. Laughter echoed through the air, and for the first time in months, the villagers felt a sense of hope and connection. Buddha turned to the boy, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Your small act of generosity has created something far greater than this meal. It has reminded your people that when we share what little we have, we create abundance. Happiness, like food, grows when it is shared." 10. The Golden Bowl. During his travels, Buddha and his disciples reached a prosperous town where the people had gathered to hear him speak. Among them was a wealthy merchant who had recently suffered a great loss. His prized golden bowl, an heirloom passed down through generations, had been stolen. Consumed by grief, the merchant approached Buddha. "Master," he said, bowing deeply, "I am a devoted follower of your teachings, but I cannot find peace. The loss of my golden bowl torments me. I wake each night wondering who took it, and my days are filled with despair. How can I free myself from this suffering?" Buddha looked at the merchant with compassion and said, "Come with me." He led the merchant to a nearby river and handed him a small wooden bowl. "Take this bowl," Buddha said, "and toss it into the river." The merchant hesitated but obeyed, throwing the bowl into the flowing water. He watched as the current carried it away, disappearing downstream. "Now," Buddha asked, "do you feel the same pain for this wooden bowl as you do for the golden one?" "No, master," the merchant replied. "The wooden bowl was never mine. I have no attachment to it." Buddha nodded. "And that is the root of your suffering. Your pain does not come from the loss itself, but from your attachment to what was once yours. The golden bowl is gone, yet you hold on to it in your mind, and that clinging causes your anguish. Let go of your attachment, and you will find peace." The merchant's brow furrowed as he reflected on Buddha's words. "But master," he said, "how can I let go of something so precious? It was my family's legacy." Buddha smiled gently. "The bowl may have been precious, but your clinging to it is what weighs you down. Letting go does not mean forgetting its value or its memories. It means releasing your need to possess it, allowing yourself to move forward without the burden of longing. The past cannot be changed, but your freedom lies in how you respond to it." This wraps up our video today. Thank you for joining us on this journey through these transformative lessons. Each story carries the timeless wisdom of Buddha, offering guidance to navigate life with mindfulness, compassion, and clarity. If you found these lessons meaningful, we invite you to subscribe to our channel and help us reach our first milestone of 1,000 subscribers. Your support fuels our dedication to creating content that inspires growth, serenity, and connection. Thank you again, and see you in our next videos.